Succession is tied as the most nominated drama series this year with 18 Emmy nominations across the board for its acclaimed second season. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with director Mark Mylod, who is nominated for directing the season finale, This Is Not for Tears. And also as a producer, because the show's been nominated for Best Drama Series. Mark, first of all, congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers.
So talk us through the morning of when you found out you were nominated in the directing category.
Goodness, I can't really remember, other than the fact that I was trying to put it off because I didn't want to assume, I didn't want to be disappointed, I didn't want the moment to be over. On Christmas morning, I always delay the kids opening their Christmas presents somewhere around lunchtime, and it's probably an extension of the same instinct to delay, enjoy the anticipation. Will it? Won't it? Obviously, when I did click on it after about 3 seconds, it was just lovely to see my name up there. I was really proud.
Yeah, I especially because last year for the first season, Succession did quite well, but of course it missed out on a few key categories. And this year, it's just completely exploded. Why do you think season 2 has become, comparatively speaking, to season 1 such a phenomenon?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think that tonally, they're almost in the same place. I think if there was an element of familiarity, I think, with the audience getting not to forgive their characters, but to understand them, to have more context. And we started to find opportunities in the writing and in the playing to just find these little chinks of vulnerability, to find the child inside the adults with all their toxic spleens. To find those little moments of humanity, of warmth even. And they were tiny and they were small, but cumulatively, I think what had become a kind of hate watch, if you like, one started, at least I did, as a kind of audience and a fan, as well as, a production member, to just get attached to the characters that I find it difficult to direct if I can't fall in love with the characters in some way, or at least forgive them or understand them, to have context for their behavior. And I suppose for me, as I got more familiar and as a group we started to dig deeper into those characters, we just started to understand them better, I suppose.
That's exactly, I think, the point that I came to by the season finale, particularly about Kendall, played so beautifully and effectively by Jeremy Strong. The season finale, both of them actually, which you both directed, really shine a light on him and his character, because he's an ambitious guy, but he so desperately needs his father's approval, recognition, and absolution even. And I felt like between season 1 and season 2, the 2 finales, he came full circle. I'm just wondering, did that factor into the conversations that you had with Jeremy for the key scenes in that episode?
Oh, very, very much so. Jeremy's preparations is extraordinary. He's method in his way of acting. That is to say that he submerges, I suppose, into the character at the beginning of production, and literally doesn't emerge until the final day of shooting. In fact, it's extraordinary. In season 1 and season 2, the last shot that Jeremy was involved in both cases, when we checked the gate, that it's almost like a physical weight has been lifted off him. This gorgeous boyish smile returns, the color comes back to him. It's a truly kind of physical transformation that comes over him. So deep is he into that character. And in both cases, in seasons 1 and 2, the conversations between Jesse, the creator of the show, and myself and Jeremy, we start with where are we going to, where is the character at the end of the season, and we work backwards from there, and Jeremy's preparation works back from there, and then you can extrapolate and kind of time the arc of the character through the season accordingly, so that we can earn that place at the end of the season, and hopefully, pull off a surprise in the case of season 2, that felt earned by the character.
Yeah, it does feel earned because you know, we see a lot of his vulnerability throughout season 2. In his words, he felt like he was almost lobotomized because of the, you know, the events of the season finale of season 1. But when we get to season 2 finale, and the family are in Croatia, or on the ship, there's that one scene in particular that I found so striking before the final scene, and that's when Logan tells his son that he's not a killer. Jeremy tells me that for him it was like a fire had been extinguished for some time, and then the fire comes roaring back, and it was quite easy from then on to do what he had to do because he was like a phoenix. Talk us through what you were aiming for, and how happy you were with that particular scene. It's a very simple scene, but it was very effective.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, the scene, and I give, as ever, I think just all the credit to the writing and the performers. It was a very easy scene to direct. I know I'm trying to win an Emmy here, but not for that scene. I don't deserve it for that scene because they did all the hard work. I supported them. Jeremy already knew what the arc was. We talked about it. He understood it instinctively. We never specifically discussed exactly. I'm often asked the question, when does Kendall turn? When does he make that choice? I have my own theories on that, which I've always kept to myself, even from Jeremy, even from Jesse, because it's not important what I think. What was important was that the actor could find that transition organically for himself, which is exactly what Jeremy did. For me, I just needed to support, make sure that we didn't push too far, that we didn't give too much away, that we didn't hold too much back, that that ambiguity of that character's turn was there, so that if you go back and watch that episode 2, 3, however many times, that would still feel emotionally honest and authentic. So that's my job, to protect and encourage. And in the case of there, you're talking about 2 world-class actors with Brian and Jeremy, with an exquisitely written scene in a very small room. My directing job at that point is not to get in the way.
Yeah, I mean, it just really actually reminds me that when you're working with such, you know, caliber of actors and writers, with a crew like that, and you're on location, you know, you've been working for such a long time, but do you feel like this is some of the best work you've done?
That's an interesting question. I don't feel like it's the best work I've done. If I'm completely honest, that's probably counterproductive to this interview, but I feel it's up there. I say that somewhat defensively because I feel driven in my work to give everything I can. Jeremy and I get on so well because we're cut from the same DNA. I can't go and direct something without just fully immersing myself, without feeling like I've given everything I can. That's not to say I don't make mistakes all the time, disastrous mistakes. But I didn't give more in this production than I did in another. I worked my butt off, and when I'm not inspired, at least I'm working hard. The difference here is that I have to be working with Jesse Armstrong and a team of writers and HBO and an extraordinary cast put together by Francine Mazer, and the alchemy of capturing the zeitgeist that is frankly beyond, you know, my contribution. I tell the story, I set the tone, I stage to let the actors free, I stage to capture the authenticity of the moment with an obsession. But I try to do that on everything I work on, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, and let's focus on a particular scene that I think you could tell that you had a lot to do with, and that was, you know, the climactic scene at the end. Because I've been told by people who worked on that scene how you did certain things to kind of really bring out the tension. So in New York, the press conference, Kendall exposes his father. It's enormously satisfying as a shocker. He betrays his father, and it's in public. It was just, I think, the perfect ending. Logan smiles or smirks at the TV because maybe his son is a killer after all. Maybe he was trying to get that out of him. What was your reaction when you first read the script? And I mean, what does it what happens to a director when you're like, okay, now I have to attack this?
The overwhelming reaction to reading or talking about a moment like that is fear, to be honest.
Yeah.
Excitement, yeah, but fear, that's the greatest idea. What if I mess it up? It's terrifying. I Before I ever read the script, Jesse and I talked about it in way back in, pre-production. So I knew that's where we were heading. And yeah, and I remained terrified for the duration of the production. And the morning of the shoot, I walked into the location which we'd chosen a few months before, and became completely convinced that the room was actually far too small and was no way it was going to have the scale. And then once we brought all the background in, the photographers, the cameramen, the sound recorders, everyone, the journalists, and filled the room, I was then convinced that we didn't have enough people and it didn't have anything like the scope or scale that we needed. I was second guessing myself to the nth degree, which I never normally do. But we settled down, and the first few takes we just couldn't get it, for reasons that I couldn't quite fathom, and neither could Jeremy. He thought there were too many microphones on the desk or whatever. So we just started working the problem, which is because it wasn't an obvious thing. The performance was good, the reactions were good. We kept working with the background to get the authenticity of that. People were using cameras incorrectly and just basic stuff like that. And then we just started working with different people, asking the questions. Some of those weren't quite coming out right. So it was basically trying to, there's a great Paul Greengrass interview when he talks about a film where the last scene of Captain, what's that Paul Greengrass film with Tom Hanks?
Captain Phillips, yeah.
Phillips, he talked about trying to shoot the last scene and it just wasn't working. So he just changed it. He took it back to the sick bay and used the real doctor on the ship for the debrief. And I've always remembered that idea that if something isn't working, any action is better than inaction. So we just started messing stuff up, change it, make somebody else ask a question, change the order, and just work the problem. And it wasn't a suddenly, but I just felt, and I think Jeremy felt the scene coming to life. It took us a good few takes. Normally we hit it pretty quickly, but that, and maybe it was just skittishness and nerves because it was such a high stakes scene for me. But then we just started hitting the right tone. It started feeling right, and I started getting the hairs on the back of the neck that I knew we needed to deliver. And then I knew we had it. We started, with the cameras almost solely on Jeremy or across Jeremy to get that performance. His first few takes are so spontaneous. I don't want to lose those in the edit. And then, of course, brought it round onto the rest of the gang to get the shape and edit rhythm of the scene. But by then I was flying. I knew we were fine. And by the time we walked out of the location, I felt really good, elated really, because I could feel the rhythm of the scene. And it's that great thing when you've had a good day at work and you're driving home and you can replay the scenes in your head. And of course, it works the other way as well when you drive home and want to pummel your head in, but works both ways. That day was a good day.
Yeah, even Jeremy mentioned that was a surprisingly difficult scene to shoot. He felt it was very elusive and just wasn't able to get there. And it reminds me of this, as a director, do you subscribe to the notion that lots of takes are necessary, or not? Maybe 2 takes are more important? Are you the Clint Eastwood or are you the Fincher? Or are you both?
I'm both. Every actor is different. Every actor has different needs. Jeremy is an explorer. He will go on. He will, and there's no telling when he will peak. When you will think, okay, we've got that, and then subsequent takes haven't quite got the same energy, and you just have that intuitive feeling. And if you've made the right bond with the actor, that when they've creatively peaked and when we should move on, and more importantly, when I think and know that we've got the beat and I know I can deliver it in the edit. In the case of Brian, that final shot that you referred to of his ambiguous quizzical smile he nailed that on take 1. I did a second take because I'm a coward in case the film got mangled, but he absolutely nailed it, to the point where actually I remember I get hairs going up on the back of the neck. I had the camera with a stand and told him the timing of how the camera was going to come in. We hadn't shot the television screen, so he had nothing to react to apart from somebody reading Kendall's words off camera, but he absolutely nailed that. Brian, a lot of the actors come from a theatre tradition, and Matthew is a great example of that. Matthew McFadden, where they will nail it on take one, and then you're playing, then you're just playing on nuance, and exploring ideas. Other actors, Kieran, for instance, builds. He explores. He's a jazz musician with the text, and plays with it and finds a music that is unique to him. Nick Vaughan is the same. So every actor has a different process, and when you've got such a beautiful group of disparate and eclectic methods, a big part of my job is to facilitate that, to give all of them space, and to support all of their methods to get the best out of them as a group.
Succession hadn't started shooting season 3 before the COVID-19 shutdown. What can you tell us about when the show or production might resume?
We will. The party line, Rob, is that we will start shooting again as soon as it's safe to do so. Of course, we're making plans. Of course, we're doing everything we can to get back to work as soon as possible. I can't give you a date at the moment. We have penciled dates. We have a couple of penciled dates, but we'll only move into production when we know we can do it safely.
Yeah, I just think we're so hungry for more Succession, particularly now. And I think it's because we love it. And also, I just think the world that we're living in, I think there's something about it, even though these are repugnant and unlikable people who, as you said earlier, have started to show some vulnerability. They're still not good people, but we still want to hang around with them. We like them. They're appealing. They're addictive, and they say a lot about our culture today. What are your thoughts on what the show's kind of reflects on the real world?
It's difficult, isn't it? It does strike. There's this kind of lightning in a bottle zeitgeist to the show. We live in incredibly polarized time, and one would have thought, this is kind of the genius of HBO, of Casey, really, of greenlighting a show that you would have thought was so kind of counterintuitive to our times, when the rise of the progressive left in terms of protest against inequality, and here's a show that wallows in inequality, albeit in a satirical sense, but still we're asking the audience to stay with these incredibly toxic characters, but they're such fun. It's such a kind of dirty secret to enjoy it, isn't it? To live vicariously through them. And then to get that kind of second wave of, oh my goodness, I actually care for these characters, it is so surprising and kind of thrilling in some way. That's certainly my experience anyway. I can't speak for the audience, obviously, but I found myself just sucked into that gilded cage that they're all trapped in.
Yeah, as did I. As soon as those helicopters lifted up in episode 1, I was like, okay, this is my show. Finally, I've also wanted to congratulate you on your Gold Derby nomination for Best Episode, which you share with Jesse Armstrong for the season finale. Congratulations on that as well.
Thanks, Rob. I didn't know we had that. Thank you.
Yes, and hopefully if you win that, you'll get a lovely little certificate that you can put on your wall, because I know, obviously that's probably even more important than the Emmy nominations, let's be honest. But look, good luck at the Emmys. We won't see you on the red carpet. We'll see you in a virtual ceremony, but we wish you all the best, Mark, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Rob. Lovely talking to you.
Everybody go to Gold Derby, make your predictions and click subscribe, and watch all of our great contender chats just like this one with Mark.